Do you ever go back through a channel's old library and find a video so bad that you don't understand why it's still up? Smosh Reads Reddit Stories is a weekly show on the Smosh Pit channel, so naturally, not every take in every episode is going to be a banger. As a matter of fact, we've covered some of their takes that are so bad, I don't really understand why they would even put them online. But this is the first episode I've seen where the guests are so out of touch and weird that it puts off the host, and you can see him get more and more uncomfortable as the episode goes on. There's one specific story in this episode where he doesn't say a full sentence until nearly the very end of the discussion. And you can see him actively fighting not to speak out against his guests.
So here's some of the comments. Must be written by another 23-year-old.
And if you watch Smosh regularly, you know how unusual that is. Shane acts like a mirror for his guests' opinions most of the time, I assume just to avoid conflict, but he's like actively biting his tongue here. Before we talk about the story that I think is really the tipping point for everything, I want to go to one that's earlier on in the video because I think their reactions do a really good job of characterizing what these guests are like. So on the guest couch, we have Rachel and Iffy. I know Iffy is an established internet personality because he works under a channel called Dropout, formerly College Humor, that I actually watch pretty frequently. He even hosts his own show for them called Actually. Now, I don't know anything about Rachel. I've never seen her in anything Smosh, but usually the people that get on the couch is either cast or crew, and if it's a guest, sometimes it'll be somebody that has an established internet presence. Based on the way she acts in this video, I'd be very surprised if she had an internet following. So this one is called
Am I the asshole? I didn't attend my son's wedding. I instead spent the evening with his ex-wife.
Okay, let's hear him out.
I feel like Redditors sometimes intentionally bait people with the title of their stories. Whether or not this is real is a question in and of itself, but there are people that will tell real stories and they'll have a fucking like hook in the title. Why do they do that?
So you click on it.
But why the fuck do you get if you're asking for advice on Reddit, like what?
After graduating high school, my son moved 3 states away for college. At 19, he married a girl he met. I tried convincing him to wait because I personally felt he was too immature. They both dropped out and moved back here to his hometown. At 20, they had their first child, a beautiful little girl. 16 months later, my daughter-in-law gave birth to their second child, a little boy. After the first baby, my wife and I noticed our daughter-in-law wasn't happy. Just after the second arrived, my son and his wife separated. She would bring the kids over for a visit. It was then she began unloading on us. I know there's 2 sides to every story, but considering I know my son, I believed her.
This dad wants to his son's wife so bad.
Are we really so far gone in relationships that men and women can't be friends? To the point where consoling the mother of your grandchildren might be considered making a move on her?
Okay, let's hear him out.
If I had a son and I just know he's a piece of crap and he's just lying all the time and just doing a bunch of horrible stuff, he marries someone and it goes really bad and they both have a different side, I'm more inclined to believe the wife probably if I know that the son is awful. I don't know if that's the case.
I just don't get how you hear that and you take that as the dad wants to fuck the wife?
It's because they're thinking of the title and they know where this goes.
Yeah, the title is salacious. That's very fair.
I know there's 2 sides to every story, but considering I know my son, I believed her.
I mean, that's the thing. When I hear that, the first thing that I think is, oh, he must have been a real fucking shithead up to this point.
I sat my son down numerous times to speak with him regarding his marriage. He refused to take responsibility, blamed her for everything, even when I directly pointed out where he was the sole problem. Our daughter-in-law filed for divorce. My son 3 days later was on Facebook announcing his new girlfriend. A month later, they were engaged. Of course, she had no other family or friends here. She knew no one aside from us. She had nowhere to go with 2 small children. Unbeknownst to our son, my wife and I helped her financially and got her an apartment.
I mean, yeah, it seems like a very caring, like, grandpa and grandma.
Before the divorce was even finalized, we received a wedding invitation. I made it clear to my son I would not be attending and they would not have my blessing. I did not attend. Our daughter also did not attend for the same reasons. My wife picked up our grandkids, got them dressed, and attended the wedding. My daughter and I decided to spend the evening with his ex. I couldn't imagine her sitting alone while her kids attended their father's wedding. We took her out to distract her mind. I just wanted her to know she'll always be considered family to us. She was very tearfully grateful. I realized just how badly she needed our support, and specifically on that night.
The next morning, my son called to tell me how much of a horrible father I am.
I thought she was gonna say he was a whore.
I thought that too.
Dad, you're a whore! You're a whore!
I guess we get there. This ends with the father having sex with the son's ex, right?
No.
Oh.
That's just what the title wants you to think.
So it has nothing to do with
It
that.
has nothing to do with that, and that's why I hate Redditors.
Okay. You could have just said, am I the asshole I didn't attend my son's wedding?
Yeah.
A few days later, he caught wind that I spent the wedding evening with his ex. He said that it was the ultimate form of betrayal, and further, myself and his sister would have to earn a relationship with him on his terms only.
It's the ultimate form of betrayal, except for, cheating on your wife.
Or like in Halo, where you team kill and the guy goes, betrayal.
Dude, we're talking about real life. You're talking about fucking video games?
See, you're saying that because you were the one that would always team kill for fun, and I was always the one that would be team killed.
Hey, what can I say?
That is actually really difficult.
That's a tough one. I think that's like
No, I think it's pretty down the middle for me. The evidence stated is he obviously cheated on his ex-wife with this woman and is now rushing to get married. He is also someone who is rushing to get married with people, not really seeing things through, which is kind of the stuff that he's said about his son that he knew is very impulsive, doesn't really consider other people's actions. And I think he is doing his duty as a grandfather to take care of those two kids and make sure their mom is all right.
Even besides that, it's a very noble thing to do to go to the person that your son is hurting and say, he's not important right now because what he's doing is a betrayal of you. So I'm here to kind of pick up the pieces of the mistakes that my son made, which he's not obligated to do.
Yeah, so far everything the Redditor did seems like right, except for clickbaiting the post.
Yeah, and for that, I do have to give you Reddit poop, which is the opposite of Reddit gold.
His son isn't probably going to be in these kids' life. This is a very clear, I've seen people who behave like this and people who behave like this try to move on to their next situation and just completely disengage from their current ones.
I didn't even consider the idea that he would be not just abandoning her, but abandoning the kid.
I don't know. I don't think it's that crazy. This is like the second marriage that he's on in like a month, wasn't it? Didn't he say it was like a month after they got divorced?
I think she's just saying that's something she didn't think about. Well, I mean, my thing with this, I wasn't even thinking of the kids because I was just so thrown off by the title.
By trying to fuck, yeah.
Well, because I was just thinking, okay, how does this go into him f***ing her? That's really just all I was thinking.
I guess you're in their mindset.
Like, well, this is my first time seeing.
Yeah, well,
this.
that's why you have valuable input.
But I'm like, those are your grandkids. They almost take precedence over once your son is an adult.
That is the mother of your grandchildren for sure. I will say there are 364 nights out of the week you could have spent with her alone.
Well, he's spending the wedding night specifically because he doesn't want her to spend that night alone just ruminating on the fact that she's been left for this other woman and now her entire family is going and celebrating that.
Like, he seems awful, and I wouldn't openly support him or be like, I think you're making the right decision. But not going to your son's wedding is a tough thing to do. And it's also, you can't work from that.
I feel like that'd be more of a wake-up call than anything. Understanding that your father didn't go to your wedding because you abandoned your previous wife and children.
Yeah, no, I mean, so far I side with the father entirely.
Not going to your son's wedding, you can't work from that. Like, if his son is an asshole and he moves on from this wedding night, there's a potential that maybe his family could encourage him to be a little bit more of a empathetic person or loving father. But if you don't go to the wedding of your son, there's no way he's going to hear anything you say after that.
I was just going to say choosing to not show up at the wedding is communicating a lot. Like, sometimes you can say a lot by not saying anything at all.
And he's not even necessarily trying to teach him a lesson here. He's trying to repair the mistakes that his son did.
Well, and also he just doesn't want to go along with something he doesn't believe in, which would be supporting that wedding too, right?
You can't teach someone to be empathetic. I think you can't teach someone to be a good father.
You can teach them, but you can't force them.
Well, you can teach them to like think about what the person might be going through, but you can't make them actually care.
Yeah, early on you gotta show that as much as you can. And it sounds like the dad is doing that, but I mean, some people are just gonna make bad choices.
Yeah, I mean, like, I know how to not eat McDonald's ever again, but I haven't done it.
I don't think that anybody wants to be a bad father. I don't think anybody wants to be a bad son.
But whether or not you want that doesn't really matter if you're choosing to be neglectful to the point that you are a bad father.
Yeah, it's hard when we're seeing an apex because it's clear that this has been a buildup, but it's like, so you just now decided to stop enabling him?
What? How do you know this is when he decides to stop enabling him? You have no context for that. You're just making that up.
Making the kids the priority, it just doesn't seem like that's what's happening here. I understand that, like, saying you are not being responsible for your children, so I will be, that's not healthy for those children to grow up thinking that their dad is a piece of shit. Even if he is.
I completely disagree with
Oh, yeah, no, they should know that if he's a deadbeat, they should know that.
I do agree that it's up to the community, the family, the parents to try to make sure that he's making the right decisions for himself. But if he can't make those decisions, I don't think that the answer is demonizing him to the kids.
I don't know. I'm sure there's a good way and a bad way. I don't think it's great to just come out and be like, yeah, your dad sucks. Fuck your dad. If you come out like that, I feel like that almost will make them rebel.
Because they need to grow up thinking that their dad loves them.
Well,
that can be a hard lesson to learn, and obviously you can't just come out and say that, but you need to make it clear that he's not going to be there for them when they need him. Don't let them form an attachment to a person that doesn't exist.
Yeah. Growing up, it's easy to look at that and just think it's normal because that's what you're being raised into.
I don't think this is a conversation to the kids. I don't think that the kids are involved in that way. And I think it is really just a parent who is fed up and wants to stand up for these kids.
I think this is a good story to point out some of the flaws in the format. Like on this story, Iffy is well-spoken, reflective, he clearly has strong opinions about the subject matter. He's a good fit for this story because he's not speaking solely on emotion. This is something he can speak on because he clearly has experience with something similar. But in the next story, he's constantly trailing off, contradicting himself, and he completely makes up additions to the story to paint the subject in a worse light. Rachel's pretty consistent throughout though. She consistently kind of sucks. I don't want to be hypocritical and say that she's lacking life experience. That was something a lot of people were implying about me in some of our previous videos. But in this story, she expects them to appease a guy that serially wrecks his family. And as you'll see in the next story, she doesn't provide the same grace to a person whose worst crime is throwing a tantrum.
All right, Iffy, go ahead.
I don't.
He's preparing his villain speech.
Oh no.
Am I the asshole for asking stepdaughter to move out?
This is an ongoing issue going on in my home. I, 33 female, am currently pregnant with my first child. I live in a 2-bedroom home with my husband and stepdaughter, 23 female. Stepdaughter and I get along fine, no big issues, but we're also not super close. Now that the baby is coming, we need more space. Unfortunately, we can't afford a new home. I brought up to my husband asking stepdaughter to move out. My reasoning is that we really need a room for the new baby, and she is an adult with a full-time job, so it's time for her to be on her own anyway. My husband agreed, and we brought it up to her at dinner one night. We told her we would help her with the first 2 months' rent. I told her it would be fun. Her and I could go shopping, and I will help decorate her new apartment. We tried to be gentle as we could, but she was very quiet. Privately, she told my husband that even though she has a full-time job, she cannot afford to live on her own. My husband told her that she did not need to move out, so now we're scrambling trying to find space for the new baby. The other day, I was home alone with stepdaughter and tried to talk to her about it again. I offered to help her find a roommate, and she snapped on me. She snapped on me and told me to just leave her alone and locked herself in her room. When my husband got home from work, he was mad at me and told me to leave her alone and not bring it up anymore. Things have been awkward and uncomfortable since, making my pregnancy very stressful. She is 23, old enough to be on her own. She has a job and we are willing to help her. We need space for our baby. I do not see how I'm in the wrong here.
I mean, it sounds like there's problems in this household already beyond that.
Maybe the daughter's being manipulative by like going behind the back of the stepmom to like have dad like fix things, and because she knows that he'll agree with her. But I do think it's a little weird that she's the one that brought up like, I think our stepdaughter should move out. The dad doesn't really show a whole lot of agency in that. Like, he's not the one that brought it up, and he seems to change his mind pretty quickly after the daughter talks to him in private. So I wonder if this is something that she has like brought up before. This is all completely speculative.
Yeah, that's so embarrassing.
So here's some of the comments. So you and your husband can't afford to another place to live, but you expect her to? Must be written by another 23-year-old.
Really? Because I feel like that's fair. If it doesn't economically make sense for you guys to upsize, why does it make economic sense to split up your incomes into 2 separate properties?
I mean, I feel like they need to have a further discussion with everyone involved rather than just telling someone.
It feels weird because we also don't have any info about the 23-year-old, like how much income she's bringing in. I feel like the stepmom, if it was an issue of like, this person is not paying rent to us, in a story where she's trying to convince people that the stepdaughter should move out, why would she not mention that? Because she has a full-time job.
I mean, all she really mentioned to us is that she's not close, asked her to leave, and she's pregnant.
But you can see he's already kind of stressing a little bit.
I feel so bad for this guy.
Yeah. You can see him furrow his brow when she's like, that's embarrassing.
Yeah, that's so embarrassing.
So here's some of the comments. So you and your husband can't afford to another place to live, but you expect her to? Must be written by another 23-year-old?
I still don't get what he means by that. What do you mean by that? Like, is that not a fair question?
I'm going to disagree with because their verdict is asshole, and I'm strongly going to disagree.
Oh my God, I disagree so vehemently.
I also disagree, but I think we just don't have enough information to say if someone's like definitively an asshole. It just seems like they're not being considerate of each other.
Isn't that what being an asshole is?
It really depends how that conversation goes, but we really have no idea like what was said. Because like I said, if it was something that maybe the stepmom's kind of pushed for in the past against the father's wishes, or maybe without even his knowledge, like that would completely change the situation. But we have like no information about the conversations that they're having. The only bit of wiggle room that I could see in this story, like where maybe the stepdaughter's the asshole, is like, is she intentionally trying to go around her back because she knows her dad will agree with her because he's like a pushover?
And also like the whole space for the baby thing. I mean, when you were younger, you had a baby crib in your room because space was a deficit for you guys.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up with anywhere from 6 to 9 siblings at one time. Yes, you heard that right. But most of the time, I feel like it's either in bed or in your arms for like the first 2 years.
Yeah, I really don't think like the whole baby needs its whole room all to itself.
Yeah. Another aspect of this is we don't know how much this person is contributing financially to the home. There could have been a talk of like, hey, maybe you could pitch in and we could get like a bigger place so we can all still afford to live and we can have maybe some more space for the baby. But it really seems like they jumped straight to you need to leave. Now, to their credit, they did say they would help with the first 2 months of rent. They would help her find a place. But when you start the conversation with, we're having a baby, so you need to go.
Yeah, that would immediately rub me the wrong way.
Yeah. She is being immature about it. Like, if she is yelling and literally locking herself away so she doesn't have to have the conversation. The stepmother initiates everything. She says, I brought up to my husband about asking stepdaughter to move out. My reasoning is that we really need her room for the new baby.
The stepmom goes out of her way to say she's not close and she's initiating all this to get her out. If I were in this situation, I would feel like the stranger that's come into my family is trying to get rid of me.
Yeah.
And I've been in...
So she can have her, like, real kid.
Yeah. And then I've been in situations where it doesn't matter what you say to the person. It's just, unless you agree with them, it makes everything worse and escalates. She might have been running off because of that. But also, it seems like the dad doesn't think that. And, I mean, maybe he's just trying to appease two masters. Yeah. I mean, his daughter's obviously not his master, but that classic saying, you know, if you try to please two masters, neither will ever be happy. Yeah. I think he's in a situation where he can't make his daughter and his wife happy, and so he's kind of like probably gonna agree with whoever's talking to him alone.
It's just weird to me that there's no middle ground.
This was right about the time I moved out. The hardest thing you will ever do for the first time in your life is move out of your parents' house.
Yes.
See, he says that. I wonder if this is a little bit of projection.
For what it's worth, you are another adult living in the home of two adults for free and not doing anything to help.
Right.
You are making that assumption based on literally nothing. We know that she has a full-time job. We don't know what amount of their mortgage, of their utilities are being paid by this person because that information is not provided. I feel like if I was a stepmother trying to convince the internet stepdaughters being unreasonable, I would probably bring up if I thought she wasn't contributing enough to the house. But that's not really in it at all. It's just a matter of practicality and what I think we need for our kid. I was definitely in that camp. Like, I definitely was not contributing anything to the household that I was in. I was actively a burden on my parents, I would say, especially in the last couple of years that I was living there. But you have literally no information. She doesn't provide anything that alludes to that even. All that we know is that she's living in their house. She works a full-time job and she's scared to move out because of the financials of it just don't make sense. That's why I kind of feel like he's projecting.
I know there's a lot of economic fuckery going on, but You know, that's why, yes, get a roommate. Yes, figure something out.
And like, you don't know the stepdaughter situation, like who, like even if they help with the first 2 months of rent, like who could she have as roommates? Like, we don't know what her friend group looks like. We don't know what her family members look like. We don't know what her financial situation looks like. There are a lot of big cities where you can be working a full-time job and not be making enough money to live.
Real quick, one thing I want to say is if you're free to tell your side of the story here, and you're setting off a lot of red flags, making me feel like you're the asshole, I think that's not a good sign.
Yeah, that's kind of you have like full control over how this story goes, and you already seem like you're in the wrong. Makes me feel like it's probably worse.
Like, it's one thing to say, like, they can't afford a new home and that she can't afford a place to live.
It's never gonna, exactly, it's never gonna get easier to leave your parents' home for the first time. But you have to make that move in order to be a human adult.
I don't know why you can't live like a full human life and still be living with your parents. If you have people around you that are like fully supportive, you know, you were raised in an emotionally intelligent household, I see no reason why you wouldn't. Like, I know people that have lived in and out with their parents just because economically it makes the most sense.
Well, I mean, I still live with my parents. I have a decent relationship with them. You know, obviously I'm not going to see eye to eye with them 100% on everything, but for the most part, they're pretty supportive of me. I try to help them out where I can.
I understand that in some situations, you can feel like you're not fully independent if you're still living with your parents, but it just depends on what kind of relationship you have with your parents. Like, for example, with my boyfriend's family, like his brothers and sisters will move in and out with his mom just based on what's practical for the situation. And it's not even like they're like, oh, I need a place to stay, but they're also helping her in her day-to-day life take care of what she needs to take care of.
You know, I'm autistic, and it took me a really long time to get to the point of doing normal human adult things than it did other people. I'm still working towards it, and I'm, you know, trying to get closer and closer to it every day, but there was just a long period of my life where I didn't know how to interact with people, I didn't know how to engage with the world, and I never set out of my box, and I'm trying to do that now. And, you know, it's not the easiest thing to do for everybody, autism or not. And to just be this presumptuous with this situation and be so matter-of-fact like seems pretty insensitive to me.
Families should support each other in whatever way they can. And I understand that in some situations you can't always guarantee people space and safety and security in your home, but clearly they have the space and they've been living in this space presumably since they were a child.
If it was like something crazy, like if they had twins or triplets, maybe I could see.
We're adopting 12 children.
Well, at that point, you're the asshole for sure.
Jesus! Oh my God! Help him!
Oh shit! I didn't see the brick wall fell. How long ago did that happen?
Like, it's not even just for. I mean, obviously, this is a 33-year-old pregnant woman. Be a human. Give her that space. You're never gonna live a full life if you are staying inside of your parents' home. Yeah, it's for her.
I don't like her.
That was the consensus many people came to when watching this video. Yeah, I just think she's wrong and has a really weird outlook on life.
Well, also, she's just the way she's going about it. It seems like it almost feels like she's being a contrarian.
Yeah.
But
which is not what we're doing. I think they're too much looking at the 23-year-old that hasn't moved out as like a burden, as like a problem. And so she's not even considering like, well, what can we do to make it comfortable for both of you? She's just thinking like, here's how you can correct what you've done wrong by staying home with your parents.
I still disagree because I get like 23 is to me the beginning of when you should be considering to move out. Like, I don't think it's like, oh, you should have been moved out. You should.
I think when you move out is when you're ready. And that's different for a lot of different people in a lot of different situations. I don't think you can just say
not just maturity, not just emotionally, but just like what makes sense. What makes sense for all of you monetarily? What makes sense for all of you relationship-wise? It doesn't seem like it makes sense for her right now. It only makes sense for the stepmom. And like I said, I do understand why a pregnant woman would want to make space. The problem that I come back to every time is that it's like she's coming to this 23-year-old that's lived with her dad her whole life, and she says, time to go. It's my turn now.
Like, I get why she's there, but I can't see how, like, knocking boots next door to your parents and your pregnant stepmom is...
Okay, first of all, they're knocking boots next to you. We know that that's true because they're pregnant. But also, even if that's true, who the fuck cares? Like, do I want to think about my parents potentially hearing me copulating in another room? No, I don't like thinking about it. And that's just what it means to live with other people.
And plus, no one even mentioned that. Like, you're the guy that brought up sex. Like,
oh, yeah. They could be a kissless virgin.
You know, I'm kind of iffy on iffy. I'm going to say that.
You know, I thought that was too low-hanging fruit. I was trying to avoid making that joke, so I do appreciate that you managed to sneak that in here. What the fuck did you actually hit my eye?
I meant to graze your cheek.
How did you fuck up that bad?
That's accessible in any way.
What I'm saying, at 23, I was like doing mushrooms in a zoo.
I don't know. Does she know that she doesn't live in the zoo? You can do mushrooms at the zoo anytime, anywhere. It doesn't matter where you lay your head at night. They're 23. Like, that could be like not even fully into your college at that point. Well, I mean, there are people that they go to college for like 8 full years. But like, I really think that they're looking at it, that they're the 23-year-old, and they're seeing themselves as a failure for not working this out.
Yeah, they're only putting themselves in the situation and seeing what they would do, and they know that they don't have any of these extra circumstances we're talking about that could be a possibility.
But it's so funny because, like, I could see why they're like, you're the asshole. Because also I think it would be a lot different if she wasn't a stepmom and if it was just the mom. I don't think people would have just been as quick to run the asshole gamut.
Yeah, if it was a completely different story, people would have felt differently. If she had a better relationship with the stepdaughter, it probably would have been taken very differently. But she straight up says that they're not close, and she kind of makes it seem like she's trying to push her out, which is why people reacted that way.
Once I read the age 23, I am like, we got to figure something out.
Yeah, you do got to figure something out, but you jump straight to you have to leave. That's not figuring something out. She wouldn't accept anything else but that conclusion.
There's like the cultural thing of like, you know, living with your parents, and but also no. Like
you see, this is what I mean, where he gets to the point where he's like, oh yeah, that is a good point, but I disagree and I don't know why.
No. I'm a child of immigrants, Nigerian. No.
He's not making a point. He's just saying like, well, I had this experience and I don't hold that opinion. Which is a statement, not an argument.
It's like arguing with a brick wall when you argue with people like that. I mean, I've definitely dealt with
If you want to argue with the brick wall, we got one.
Oh, I thought you meant if you want to argue with Jesus.
You can argue with Jesus, too. He's right in front of it.
I know someone who is like in her 30s, who is like banking on, still with her parents, and culturally it's fine. And I'm still like, no.
I have a friend who still lives with her parents at 30s, and I still think she's a piece of shit.
But at a certain point, you gotta find a middle ground, because it seems like your option is like, no. You have to flip on the adult brain where it's like, am I being a burden to my parents?
I think there is an aspect of this that I almost agree with. Like, I feel like I stayed with my parents way too fucking long, but that's because I'm an incredibly lazy person and I didn't really have any reason to be ambitious. I don't know. The stepmom certainly seems like she is annoyed with her, but it doesn't sound like, from what we know in the story, that she's making her life actively worse, other than not wanting to leave the home she's living in.
And it seems like he wants to like let you live there, but at a certain point you gotta find a middle ground, because it seems like your option is like no.
What? But there is no middle ground from either side. The only conclusion they come to is that she needs to move out.
I don't know if she's manipulating him like you said, or if it's just her really pushing for it.
Either way, it's not like she came to her after and was like, okay, well, let's look into some different options. It's, okay, well, let me help you find a roommate so you can get the fuck out of my room.
Yeah.
You not once been like, okay, then let's put our shekels together and let's get a bigger place together. Yeah. But what it sounds like is you want to keep living for free with your entry-level job, saving up money. Your parents are unable to save up the money.
You are literally making that up. We have no indication whether or not this person is providing money for rent. We have no indication whether or not they can afford to save up money, because we don't know how much money they're giving for rent.
What happens when you do have enough money to move? Are you going to do anything for them? Or are you going to move to your new house or move in with your husband with the money you saved and live the rest of your life?
Is that not something you should want to do as a parent? Ideally, if you can do something like that, where it's like, you can live with us for a few years so you can build up money, so you can buy a new house. Isn't that kind of what you're supposed to do? But not only that, like, I feel like that kind of solves this problem, because now you're allowing them to build up savings, and now they get a good first step into the world, and you get that extra room.
It does seem like the dad agreed that she should leave. And then as soon as the daughter was like, no, the dad was like, oh.
He does agree. Like, from what we see here, my husband agreed, and we brought it up to her at dinner one night. That's all we get about the husband agreeing to this plan, is literally 3 words. But is that the dad backing out because he didn't want to offend his daughter, or is it the dad backing out because the daughter maybe came to him after and said, Dad, she's making me really uncomfortable. It really seems like she wants me out of the house. And maybe he was sitting there silent in that whole conversation, because we don't know. Since the daughter didn't speak up in the first conversation, maybe because she felt like she couldn't speak out, he is fine to go ahead with that plan until she comes to him and says, I don't want to do this anymore.
So yeah, I was going to ask, because that happened so quickly. The daughter just said no, and then dad was like, okay.
And this is why I just kind of don't fly with, because if she would have in that moment disagreed and did it and had a conversation like the adult she's in, then I'd be like, okay, there's some there. But what she did is, like a child, waited till she got her dad alone.
She didn't come to her dad first. They had the conversation. It seemed like she didn't feel like she wanted to speak up. How is it any less manipulative for the stepmom to come to her alone without the husband there to voice his opinion?
And, you know, even if, like, absolutely you should totally move out at 23, that is just a fact, that is true, that is the golden truth of society, you're still an asshole for going about it this way.
I just look at it as like, if times are rough and your reaction is like, times are rough, it's like, no, when times were rough back in the day, kids were working in factories. You are 23.
Yes, times did used to be worse, iffy, very good argument. People are skinned alive every day. Are you really complaining that rent is $3,000 a month? I mean, look at that guy, he's got no skin. I get it, rise and grind, but she is rising and grinding. She's working a full-time job.
Yeah, she's in the factory.
She's in the factory.
Like, it's not like she's in college. It's like she has an entry-level job.
You are just making shit up.
I don't know if she's planning on going to college and now she just can't because she has to move out.
Like, what is going on here?
It just makes me so, like, when I was 23 years old, I lived in a basement that had 0 windows and there were literal brown rats living in my bed. So when I hear this I'm like, you can make it work.
Do you want that for your daughter? Do you want that for anybody?
Hold on. If you can make rats in the mattress work, I don't think it's that much of a stretch of the imagination to make sharing a room with a baby work.
I'm sorry that you had to live in destitute conditions at what I'm sure was probably a very difficult time in your life. But to suggest that something you're making work is like complete unfiltered cope.
When I first lived on my own, like some of the first years, like living with a bunch of roommates in like not a great place, you do over time, like you don't want to go back. No. At least I didn't. I was like, I'd rather this. Like, I frankly, I think once there's a little baby, she's gonna want to move out.
I love Shane Top, but this is where I think his biggest weakness as a host is really put on display, where he'll try to mirror his guests' opinions to a point where it's clear that he doesn't even agree with what they're saying, but he has to find some point that they agree on so that they can move forward in the conversation. Like he's not even really agreeing with what they're saying. He picks on one micro point and then he moves on to kind of say like, once you move out and you're in these shitty circumstances, even then you won't want to move back in. But that's not even what's at issue here.
Frankly, I think once there's a little baby, she's gonna want to move out.
I don't like that he's justifying what she's saying because he thinks that this person will eventually change their mind.
I think that everybody in this video is wrong and I'm right.
Well, that can't be right because I think everyone in this video is wrong and I'm right.
But also, no. Like.
Well, that's the end of that story. As I said, you can see Shane becoming visibly uncomfortable. As a matter of fact, the vibes are so bad throughout the entire video, he feels the need to make a statement at the end where he says,
thank you all for watching. Let us know in the comments your opinions. A lot of these were very, controversial. I'm sure you disagree with us. That's okay.
Now, if you reach the end of a recording session, and the vibes are that fucking awful, why did you upload the video to begin with? Was it really so important to maintain your upload schedule that you were willing to put out something this bad? Now, for the other videos we've talked about on this channel, you could easily say, well, that was one story in a much longer video. We didn't expect people to have such a negative reaction to it. But in this instance, the host clearly is not comfortable with it. Why did they think this was gonna go over well with their general audience? Just about the only good thing I can say about this episode is that Shane Top doesn't come across across as an out-of-touch weirdo. But it doesn't reflect well on him as a host either. He's not calling them out for saying things that are blatantly untrue. Are they so averse to controversy that they won't challenge someone who is actively doing damage to their brand image? When you look at it in this light, I think it makes the previous videos make sense. It doesn't seem like they're willing to challenge each other's thought processes, at the very least not on camera, which I do understand. But if that is your exclusive on-camera policy, it's going to reflect negatively on everybody when you're not pushing back on a blatantly harmful take. And if you scroll through the top comments, they are all critical of these people. I think they both had equally dumb takes at different parts of this video. The only thing that I can say as a positive is that Shane doesn't come across as an out-of-touch weirdo, which I can't say for the two guests. But if it were me, I would not put this video out. Anyway, there is a good possibility that this video will be claimed for copyright because Smosh did that with one of our previous videos. So I would really appreciate if you could go and watch the other videos on our channel, even subscribe if you think you'd like to see more stuff like this from us. We won't necessarily be making videos exclusively on Smosh, but you know, for now, that is what we're doing because people seem to like it. What should be the end bit? No, you can't. What the fuck? Why is it red? Did you hit the red button?
I'm sorry, Mike.
I told you not to fucking hit the... I can't turn that off. I have to call a technician. It's like $300.
I mixed it up with the donut button.
God damn it. I told you I had that taken out because you kept fucking hitting it.
Why didn't you just take out the red button?